the fact that someone can be all knowing when you're talking about creatures like us who always have to learn and always have to adapt is just mind boggling. It's something that we really can't even fathom. And Tozer talks about that in the book. So there's a few things to talk about. Chapter 10 is on pages 67 through 70. And so Tozer gives a definition of omniscience. He says omniscience is not only God's perfect knowledge, but that God has never learned and cannot learn. That's on page 67. And so that really just floored me reading about that and thinking about it as someone who is unable to learn, and also has never learned and unable to learn, only because of the qualities of who God is. And so he shows this through various scriptures, and it's just mind blowing to even comprehend someone that, or like God, that cannot learn, because everything that is because of him. It's already been seen. It's already existed. So Tozer talks about something really interesting, which I didn't think about. And I grew up in the church, so I always know about, how God was omnipresent, present, and omniscient, and all those things. But when he breaks it down like this, it's really interesting to see. He talks about the negative approach to divine omniscience, and he says it's easier to describe what God is not like than what he is like for people who don't know what God is. You say, well, God is like, such and such, and it might be something that's overwhelming. But if you say, well, he's not like this, he's not like us because he's able to do this. Tozer says that negative approach sometimes is easier to describe him and helps other people understand. And by saying what he's not like, that kind of puts it in the limit of our finite minds. And so it's easier sometimes for us to figure out what things are not like than what they are like, when you're making some type of comparison, like a simile or a metaphor. So this contrasts humanity completely, and Tozer does a great job of explaining what and using scripture to show what he's not like. And so that is also very helpful. Then moving on, he also talks about just some facts about divine omniscience, like what that means in terms of scripturally based and everything else. So he says divine omniscience also means that it is inferred from all that is taught about God. So not only does the Bible say it, but whatever has been taught and said about God also infers that he is omniscient, which is a really amazing thing to think about too. God's divine omniscience also means that he knows all things equally well. This is on page 68 and 69. He says that he never discovers, is surprised, or is amazed by anything. So that's something that, because it's already known to him, it's in the fullness of his knowledge. He knows himself perfectly on page 69. So we think about human beings, we're always learning about ourselves. Like we may change from the time that we're born to the time we're in our teens to the time we're in our 20s and 30s. But God knows himself perfectly because he is self-existent and self-contained. So all that is in him is already known. And that is pretty amazing too. And then also, I like how Tozer really pivots at the end of the chapter. He says, because he knows himself completely and he knows his creations, he also knows us completely. And even though he knows that we're sinful, we're broken, we're messed up, we have all our issues, he still calls us to himself. And the most important part, I think, that I really got from this chapter is that God's knowledge of himself allows him to know us, allows us to know him, but also it shows that he is a loving, warm, personal, and compassionate. That's what Tozer says. And that allows us to create that type of relationship with him because he knows us already in our flaws and our weaknesses. So I really enjoyed this opportunity to learn more about God's attributes. And thank you again. I hope everyone has enjoyed their reading of the book, and I hope this helps you as well.